With the 2024 Iowa caucuses looming, though, all but one of the Republican Party candidates for president squared off on the debate stage at Drake University in Des Moines on Wednesday night. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has attended the debate at his own Fox News town hall. Chris Christie has dropped out of the race, but was caught out on a hot mic criticising his fellow candidates, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, more or less saying that they're not up to the job. Joining me now from the US of A is former Congressman Mr. Joe Walsh. Joe, a very, very good evening to you. Welcome to the Independent Republican Mike Graham. And look what they've done. They've given me a whole new set. They've given me my own portraits. You know, the place is absolutely jumping.
Michael, it's good to be with the most top-rated show in the UK. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Very good to see you. Before we get underway, by the way, with what's going on in the world of Trump and Chris Christie and all of that, we're following a story just as we speak about what's happening over the skies of the Yemen. It looks as though the US and the UK are together, putting together some kind of military strike on these Yemeni rebels to protect the Red Sea shipping passages. What can you tell us from your end of the Atlantic?
I can tell you, Michael, that I think patience here within our government and a few of our allied governments, I think, has run out. And so I think some of these these Houthi rebels are going to face the wrath of the U.S. military. I think it's only going to increase.
And is that a worry, do you think? I mean, is it something... I mean, Joe Biden famously doesn't really particularly want to get himself involved with anything in the Middle East that involves US lives and certainly putting anybody at risk. This may not do that, but it's an escalation, is it not?
It may be, but tough. If that's what it takes, Michael, to do what we have to do in the Middle East, defending Israel, so be it. Iran, Hezbollah, Lebanon, they don't want to escalate. Well, as long as they keep hitting at us, that's what they're going to risk. We have to do what we have to do.
Yeah. And you've been a great supporter of Israel's actions in Gaza ever since October the 7th. You've been very strong on that. What did you make of Antony Blinken in the Middle East this week, saying to Benjamin Netanyahu, yeah, carry on with looking after what you're doing, going after Hamas, but you're killing basically too many people?
Yeah, but Michael, I got to tell you, again, I'm disappointed in some of what the Biden administration has been saying. But all in all, Biden and his team have still been really damn strong supporting Israel. So I'm going to give them a pass because I know they have to say certain things privately and certain things publicly. But we're right there. We're right there with Israel. No daylight.
OK, let's talk about Chris Christie. He's pulled out of the race. He's basically been overheard on this hot mic saying that Nikki Haley's going to get smoked, I think was his word. Doesn't think that she's any good, doesn't think she's up for the fight. Why do you think he's withdrawn? Has he run out of money? Has he run out of the will to do it? What do you think it's about?
Now, he could, it's not money and it's not will, because what we know about Chris Christie is all he cares about is Chris Christie.
Yeah.
It's always about advancing Chris Christie. Michael, he doesn't have and he never had a chance to win because there's no never Trump lane in this Republican Party. That would be like me or Liz Cheney running to be the Republican Party nominee. Christie is despised among Republican voters. He never, ever, ever had a shot to begin with. I do think, Michael, it's pretty selfish of him not to endorse Nikki Haley and to do whatever he can to try to help somebody beat Trump.
Yeah, I mean, because he seems to be a character who, as you say, has moved from sort of one side of the divide to another. He was formerly a great Trump supporter. Now he's not. You know, Trump made a joke about him, I think, just the other day on Fox, saying that, you know, he started talking to him again. But Trump's just playing with all these people, isn't he? I know that you and I famously don't agree on Donald Trump, but, I mean, he's literally the puppet master for all these characters. He doesn't care about any of them, really, and none of them really have got a chance of getting anywhere near him.
I can't stand Trump, Michael. You know that. Yeah. But look, this has never been a race. This has never, ever been a race. The Republican Party is Donald Trump's, more so now than a year ago, more so now than 2 years ago. This nomination is his, and it doesn't matter how many indictments or how many convictions. This was never a race. He's going to be the Republican Party nominee. Everybody knows that.
And the last time I think you and I spoke, it was just after the Colorado madness where the courts there had tried to stop Donald Trump from even becoming a candidate. What's the latest on that?
We'll hear in a few weeks. The Supreme Court's going to hear arguments in a couple weeks, so they're going to take it up. It doesn't mean they have to rule. But, Michael, I'd be really surprised if the Supreme Court allowed Trump states to boot Trump off the ballot. I think they'll find some technicality and that issue will go away. Look, I don't want Trump to get elected, but I'd rather kick his ass at the ballot box than kick him off the ballot.
Yes, I mean, I think you would sound like a very undemocratic man, Joe, if you started saying people should be banned from standing for election, because everybody should be allowed to stand for election, shouldn't they?
Well, but Michael, a couple caveats. In America, you got to be 35 to run for president. You have to be a natural born citizen of America to run. And technically, Michael, if you engaged in insurrection, which I believe Trump did, but who cares what I think? But if you engaged in insurrection, you cannot be president. We have a process here, and the Supreme Court, Congress, somebody has to determine whether he engaged in insurrection.
Well, they have determined that he hasn't. But we've had this conversation. They have determined that he did not. And no court in America so far has actually convicted him of insurrection in any way, shape or form. So you can have as many, ridiculous lawsuits flying around from Florida to New York to Washington. But at the end of the day, nobody has proven that Donald Trump was involved in that word insurrection.
Well, bullcrap, my friend. It doesn't say, the Constitution doesn't say you have to be convicted of insurrection.
Oh, right.
It says you were found to have engaged in.
Yeah, but now, who makes that decision? Yeah, but who makes it?
In America, again, we have 50 states. Every state runs their own election. So in America, the state of Colorado had the right to determine he engaged in insurrection. But, Michael, Trump has the right to appeal that.
Yes.
He did appeal that. And I think a court will probably overrule what Colorado and Maine did.
I mean, I've lived in America, Joe. That's the maddest thing I've ever heard anybody say. And I know you're not mad. So you must be just sort of trying to push an agenda which doesn't make any sense. No. When you say Colorado determined that he was involved in insurrection, Colorado didn't. A couple of nutty Democratic judges on the Colorado Supreme Court decided that he might have been involved in insurrection, and therefore that was their ruling. It doesn't make it true.
No, but Michael, in our country, those two wacky Supreme Court justices in Colorado had the authority to do what they did.
Crazy.
Yes. And that one person in the state of Maine had the authority to do what she did. That's how it works. Trump has the authority to appeal, and a higher court can overrule what Colorado and Maine did.
Yeah.
That's how our system works.
It's completely bonkers.
That's our democracy every bit as much as voting.
No, it's not. Absolute rubbish. So you've got some doddering old fool who decides that he wants a person not to be allowed to run and declares that he's not allowed to run. Absolutely idiotic.
That's how it works.
I've got some advice for you, right? And we can take this to the Supreme Court in D.C. Instead of having a limit on the youngest age of the president, maybe you should have a limit on the oldest age. So, you might have to be 35, but you're not allowed to be over 65. How about that?
Hey, Michael, I may go in on that with you. Maybe you and I could sponsor that change to our Constitution.
I would be more than happy. Let's rope in that character from Colorado and let's just change the Constitution. Sounds easy to me. Joe, great to see you. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Joe Walsh there, once again, explaining the way the Constitution works in America. Absolutely bonkers, isn't it? Where some old guy decides, no, Donald Trump definitely was involved in insurrection. We definitely can't have him. Absolute madness.